Well, here we are, Sammy Dippy. We finally made it. We finally got here. Finally, a Spider-Man taken seriously in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In any case, that's what comes across in this very first trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day, the most anticipated Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. After Avengers Zoom Day, I might even want to say that I'm looking forward to it a bit more than Avengers Zoom Day, even though in Avengers Day my mille escamens, I think, well, a real Spider-Man, with the Punisher, with Hulk, with lots of Spider-Man villains and Marvel Cinematic Universe villains in general. I want to say yes, I want to say let's go. It seems like we're continuing what No Way Home gave us, which hasn't aged well, No Way Home. Beyond the surprise of Tobey and Andrew's cameos, the movie is still pretty bad. But they offered something interesting, kind of a soft reboot of Peter Parker, and ended the movie with the real Spider-Man. Not the Spider-Man with nanotechnology, not the Spider-Man who's a Stark fanboy, the Peter Parker who, with nothing but his wits and his courage, goes to save the widow and the orphan, and who sacrifices himself. Great power comes with great responsibility to save the world. That's it, that's Peter Parker, that's Spider-Man, that's cool. Yeah, so we're not looking at a particularly spectacular trailer here. For once, I don't think there are any really crazy money shots, despite the obvious nods to comic book covers that we've seen. But you can see it's going to look really nice, and that we're changing things up a bit. Well, first of all, just the fact that he has a real costume made of fabric or spandex, call it whatever you want, I find that refreshing. So I'm going to be like all the hardcore comic fans. For me, the Stark Tech suit really annoyed me because, you know, you're not Iron Boy, not Iron Man Jr., you're supposed to be Spider-Man. So the fact that he sewed it himself in his student room, even if he's not a student anymore, well, actually, yes, he is still a student. I said crap. I think it's way cooler, you know, he's much more street level now, and apparently he doesn't have any, intergalactic stuff. My comparison, you know, apparently he's facing real Spider-Man villains, so you might say, yeah, but Spider-Man villains can mean a lot of different things. Because in the comics, actually, Spider-Man faces magical stuff, things from space, things from other universes. Okay, but if you go back to the basics of the Spider-Man character, because you could say the same thing about Batman if you want, but basically, what is Batman? They're psychopaths in costumes who torture and terrorize the civilians of Gotham. Well, Spider-Man is the same. He has to take down robbers, he has to take down costumed villains who want to rob banks. That's what Spider-Man is supposed to do, and that's what was really missing. In the first trilogy we had, he never really stopped regular criminals, he only stopped supervillains, but he didn't really stop everyday crooks, he didn't stop them much. That was kind of what was missing. The friendly neighborhood side. Yeah, I speak English very well, don't mess with me. The little spider of the neighborhood, that was missing. They talked about it, but we didn't actually see it there. In the trailer, he's apparently only fighting second-rate villains, I mean street-level villains. That's nice, by the way. He thinks he's another vigilante, but he's not a vigilante Spider-Man. Anyway, he runs into the Punisher. There you go, they had a 15-second interaction, and I was like, okay, that's good, they got it, they understood. You've got Frank Castle showing up with his big van. They put in the Punisher's van. The guy had 2 seasons, he didn't have his van, I think he didn't have his van. I'm not making this up, he got the Punisher's van. He's after some bad guys who stole a tank, and Spider-Man asks, "What are you doing here, Frank?" Frank tells him to shut up and attacks. He shoots at him, they throw insults at each other, he's like, oh, that's how it is. He pushes him, twists his mouth, says, go on, go home, that's it. I like it. Especially since they seem to run into each other a lot in the movie. That's the dynamic, it's Punisher, he doesn't have time to hang out with kids, he's going to kill everyone. And Peter Pan, he's like, no, be nice, stop your nonsense, that's it, I like that. So here we're already getting at something that makes me happy. Yeah, so, like I was saying, it looks a lot more grounded. Yeah, I speak English, it looks a lot more street level, which is pretty cool. So, we see him facing several villains in the supervillain, let's say, in abundance. Well, first there's the Scorpion. Well, the Scorpion was teased 10 years ago. With the first Homecoming, so he's coming back, Mike Gargan. The suit looks good, but I don't get why they'd make an exoskeleton with a Scorpion. Still, in the Marvel Universe, nobody cares. On the other hand, the design looks a lot like the leaks we saw a few months ago, so the leaks we had back then. I didn't really comment on them, but they seemed legit. We'll see several villains with Scorpion playing a real role in the story, and others who are more secondary. We've got Boomerang, we've got another one, I can't remember his name, who looks a bit like a ninja. We've also got the Hand, who seems to have a role in this movie. Likely all these villains, except maybe the Hand, Scorpion, and possibly Tombstone, who's planned for the movie, will appear. These are villains we're very likely to see at the beginning because actually the movie is supposed to take place 4 years after the last one, so we'll see that he's living his life as Spider-Man, so he's stopping supervillains. There you go, maybe that's even a theory going around based on the images when he's carrying the guy. Like in Amazing Spider-Man 1, the comic, it's a reference to the cover. Some people say, yeah, it's a bit dark and all, maybe it's during the Void attack in the Thunderbolt movie. Why not? Because we also know that Yelena is supposed to appear in Spider-Man for a little cameo. So let's say, why not? Well then, we'll have to explain why he saves the civilians but doesn't take down the villain. That's weird, considering he's stronger than the whole team combined. Peter Parker, but anyway, let's admit it, at least it's connected. We also have things that are very likely connected with Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. Since we see Spider-Man get the keys to the city from, we're unsure who, but the girl, the black woman, there, who is the assistant, I think, of Wilson Fisk, the chief of staff, I don't know the exact term, but anyway, it's Wilson Fisk's assistant from Daredevil who gives the keys to the city to Spider-Man. It's also said this movie happens after Born Again Season 2, because in the context of Born Again, it's odd for someone from City Hall to give Spider-Man the keys to the city. Because precisely what is set up, at least at the end of Born Again Season 1, is that there are no more heroes. In New York, it's no longer legal, that's it, yes. Anyway, to get back to the Hand though, I have no idea which story they're going to adapt when it comes to Spider-Man. And the Hand, well, there are probably some arcs where he faces the Hand, but for me the Hand is mainly Daredevil's villains. And a little bit of Wolverine too, because Wolverine is kind of connected to the Hand. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he has a foot in there. If you give me ninjas and superheroes like the Hand, I'm happy. It's like being 8 again. The visuals are also cool. You see, at one point, he's in a prison, he doesn't have his mask anymore, he puts stars on the thing, his eyes turn black, he breaks a katana, and he's like, oh, what's gonna happen? It looks crazy. And we see that he possibly meets a character, apparently a telepath, who takes control of different people. First, an old lady in a tank, then a cop, then another guy. It's definitely the character played by Sadie Sink, you know, the red-haired girl from Stranger Things who's in the cast. Well, I want to tell you most likely, according to the leaks from back then, she was playing a telepathic character, so that's confirmed. Telepathic characters in the Marvel Universe. There are plenty, but a little redhead about the same age as Peter Parker now, there aren't that many. For me, it's most likely the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Jean Grey, knowing that in the next phase, there will be the X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, why not introduce Jean Grey in this movie? Why not? Now, will it be relevant to do it? Will it be done well? Won't that make the story a bit heavier, trying to cram too many things in? That's a bit of a risk, because I don't think Punisher is in the movie. There's gonna be Hulk, we see Banner, we see Hulk, there's a scene in the movie where he gets thrown, most likely by Hulk, you can see the Hand. There's Scorpion, and if you add the X-Men on top of that, be careful, we still don't know, he's the main villain of the movie, we don't know, but I'd be surprised if it's Scorpion. So we still don't know what the big threat is in the movie. They're gonna have to do something coherent. This is where the movie could potentially take a bit of a risky path for me, but we'll see. Then, I kind of skipped over it, but we'll come back to it. I talked about the costume, the fabric costume, let's say the classic costume, which is coming back here. He's also seeing a transformation of Spider-Man. Ultimately, the theme of mutation. If you add Jean Grey into the equation, it might not be so far-fetched, even if Spider-Man's mutation doesn't seem related at first. But maybe there's a way to connect all of this, since Banner is also part of the story, so there's a way to tie it all together. So, there's a story of mutation in the plot, where Spider-Man starts to reach a new level of his powers. His powers are mutating, and apparently he starts to shoot organic webs. That too was a rumor that had been going around for a few months already, so now it's confirmed. There's a good chance everything else in the leaks is true too. Since many things have proven accurate, it's interesting and I'm curious to see what happens. We'll see the arachnid version of Spider-Man with 8 arms, climbing everywhere and turning into a monster. It would be very interesting to see that. Yeah, it could be interesting. Or maybe, is he going to react actually? Will he get stung by the scorpion and then his body will protect itself? Will it force him to evolve? I don't know, but I like the idea of seeing him in a cocoon and everything. What's gonna happen? That could be really, really cool. Plus it ties in the mutant side again, which could be nice. Alright, but there is still one thing that seems to be bothering a lot of people, judging by the reactions, and I understand. It's the return of Mary Jane and Ned with Peter Parker, who seems to be stalking them. Well, if we understand the situation, it looks like he lives in the same building. But the guy is starting to be a bit creepy. Move on. So, the character seems to be evolving, but not that much. He's still attached to his friends, he follows them, it's weird, he seems to be forcing his way in. It took him 5 years to find them again. Well, 4 years to find them, it's weird. Isn't the storyline gonna be a bit annoying? On one hand, you feel like the saga wants to move forward, but at the same time, we're going to keep going. The little romance with Mary Jane and his friendship with Ned. Here you go. Maybe it was a chance to introduce new characters and let Peter Pryor move on. That was my old life. Now this will be my life going forward. But I know why, because Zendaya is bankable. There you go. I never understood the hype around her. I have nothing against her, just never got it. But now she's apparently his wife. Yeah, I follow the gossip a bit, so yeah, they needed to give that real-world connection to Peter Parker. Otherwise, it just becomes about Spider-Man and that makes him a bit less interesting. What's interesting about Peter Parker's character is his adventures. Spider-Man, of course, but also his problems as Peter Parker. So, I think they might focus on Peter Parker, who has trouble paying his rent, but above all, he's alone and would really like to find some friends again. He could have made some new friends anyway, but well, why not? They could have brought in a Gwen Stacy. They could have brought in the real Mary Jane Watson. Why not? Let's go crazy. But anyway, they decided to, they'll try to reconnect him with his friends. And probably at the end of the movie, they'll get back together again. Or maybe they'll man up and Mary Jane will die or something crazy like that. We don't know. Anyway, we'll see. Anyway, all that to say, the trailer is really engaging, and then we didn't bother with crappy little teasers. Well, after that, the movie's marketing, which is pretty unique. The first image showed Tom Holland excited. Before filming started, we saw some set photos where they really worked hard, and here the strategy was, hey, we'll tease the trailer for 24 hours, releasing 2 seconds at a time, then drop the full trailer at the end of the day. It's crazy, but why not, right? It's true that movie promotion now also happens on social media, so I think it's actually pretty clever. Well, I don't really see the added value of this mess, but it worked. It got people interested. I mean, now, every time you logged onto a social network, you saw clips of Spider-Man. Everyone was coming up with theories every 2 seconds. Yeah, it was pretty funny, so why not? So we'll see how it turns out. It'll be released in July if I'm not mistaken, so in July we'll be there, we'll watch it, and I hope we're going to enjoy it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I'll let you tell me what you think. Leave a comment and I'll see you very soon on SPATULE Bros for new videos. Yes!